Most people think that downsizing a house is going to simplify their life, and it absolutely can, but nobody's going to tell you how complicated it is before you get there. And this idea of downsizing or right sizing, that can go sideways very quickly if you are not prepared. And every time, for the same reasons, people will stop. And so that's what we're going to talk through. How do you mentally prepare? How do you get ready to actually make this transition of life? And we're going to talk about life first, wealth second, meaning optimize this transition for wealth. And then we're going to focus on the real estate like we always do. So the message that I got that we're going to read here in just a moment, I want you to notice the pattern that's in it. And here it is. Weldon, my parents are in their late 60s. My dad just retired. They're in a 4-bedroom house with a big yard, and it's getting to be too much for them. They want to downsize, but they keep going back and forth. One week they're ready, the next week they're not. I want to help them think through this the right way. Where do they even start? Thank you so much for writing in for that question, because there's so many of us that are going through this right now. And if we're not the ones actually doing it, we're supporting our parents going through it. I did it for my mom, and it was a trial. And it was actually what we call a crisis downsizing, where her husband had passed away. And then 3 weeks later, she fell and broke both ankles, and we had to jump in and make things happen. I have some other videos that I'll connect to on that, just telling that story. But you don't want that to be you. You want to downsize on your own terms. You want to go in with eyes wide open. And so that's what we're going to do, is we're going to talk through these 8 truths. Again, amazing question right there. And so many of us that are going through it, this helps prepare us. But here's where they're asking, or at least another angle of what they're asking. And we're looking at the house right here. But what I see is missing is that nobody is asking the question about what does life look like in 5, 10, 20 years down the road? What does your dad actually want in retired life? What does your mom want? Do they think that this is too much for them? Because we can lead a horse to water, but we can't make it drink if they don't actually want to make this move and they don't have the vision for why they're doing it. Maybe grandkids, more connection to a community that they love. Maybe those are some of the reasons that they actually want to make this transition. Maybe it's more about legacy and recognizing that investing in the people that are around you, that might leave a more meaningful impact than if you weren't there. The house here, it's actually the last decision to make. And that's the reframe that most families never get. We have to get that vision up front. What are we working towards? And that's what's going to help us whenever it gets tough. So here are the 8 things that you have to hear before you ever make a phone call to a real estate professional. And if you get these right, the decision actually gets easier, not more difficult. And if I say anything that's confusing, my link, it's in the caption below. Book time there. It's a free phone call, and we can talk through your situation, and I can connect you with a values-aligned professional wherever you are in this country. Here is truth number 1, and that's that it might not save you money. And I want to lead with this one because this is the one that catches most families off guard. You go to a smaller home and you expect something to be less expensive, except what actually happens? You find out that the moving costs, those are real. It's been a while. You're talking anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 easily, depending on the distance, right? And how much stuff is there. And if you're moving to a 55 plus community or a condo or a homeowner association and you're not used to that, some of those, they're $200 to $1,000, depending on where you're at and what kind of amenities they might be providing. Or worse yet, they're not providing any amenities, but still charging you. Holy smokes, no one likes that, right? So that's on top of everything else. And here's the one that nobody's talking about. If you bought that 4-bedroom house 15 or 20 years ago, you probably have a rate of 3, 4, 5%. And the home that you're moving to, that might be a 6 or 7. So you could be spending more per month for less house. That doesn't mean it's the wrong move though, because downsize equals save money. That's not automatically true, but you might have a different decision, a different motivator for why you're doing it. And that makes it well worth it. You just have to know what that is before you get into it. Okay. Truth number 2, your ideal home might not exist where you want to go. This is a hard one. The picture in most people's heads is a nice 3-bedroom, 2-bath, small lot, no maintenance, maybe a 2-car garage, and it's in a community that they like and is close to where they want to be. Now, that specific combination, it might not exist in the exact area that you have in mind. And I've had families who were completely ready emotionally, financially, and then they went to go look and there was nothing. It was a letdown. The condo inventory, that was thin as far as what they wanted. The townhome options, they all had issues. The 55 plus communities, they had wait lists. So the advice I give every time is before you get emotionally committed to a destination, let's figure out if the home that you actually want, if it exists there. That research needs to happen before should we sell. Let's go make sure that where we're going to actually exists. And you don't want to get too far down the road or else you're setting yourself up for disappointment. Here's truth number 3. Downsizing the house does not downsize the grief, the emotional process. This one is hard to swallow. So when you have decades living in a home, there is a lot that goes along with it. You've found the perfect things for all the nooks and crannies that are there. That house, it means something. And when you're going through it and you're deciding what goes, figuring out where to put things, that is not logistics. That's emotional work. And I've watched families underestimate it significantly. I did it for myself, for my mom, because she couldn't move. She was sitting there in the wheelchair, and it was 100 plus bags to Goodwill, to the dumpster, to just donations. And it was a ton. It was emotionally draining. And if you're watching this, don't rush this part if you can avoid it. Some families, you need a few months to start this process. And that's not delayed. That's actually being smart about a real human cost that's not going to show up in any kind of spreadsheet, that emotional cost that you're trying to work through. Now, I want to pause here for a second because if you are watching this again and you're thinking this sounds like a lot of reasons not to downsize, that's not where I'm going. These truths, they exist so families can walk into this decision with eyes wide open. Because the families who get this right, they look back and say it was the best thing that they ever did. The ones who get it wrong, they're the ones that tell me that they did things in the wrong order. So keep watching. Make sure that you're informed as we go through this. So here's truth number 4, is that you're trading one maintenance problem for another kind of problem. Now, one of the big reasons people move or downsize is that they're done with the yard, they're done with the house, they're done with repairs, and those are all completely valid reasons. But what are the trade-offs? So if you go into a condo or a townhome or a 55 plus community, there's going to be a homeowner association of some kind. That HOA, they're paying for things that you're not doing anymore, that you don't care about. And sometimes they pay for them well, and sometimes they assess you. So a special assessment, that can run anywhere from a few $100s to tens of thousands of dollars, depending on the building and what the maintenance needs are. So before you ever buy one, make sure you examine the reserve account. What is it that the association has to pay for some of these unplanned, or hopefully planned, but they could be unplanned costs, because those are real, informed decisions. You're going to hear me say that all the time. Now, the HOA's finances, when you look at it, the reserve fund, you look at the recent meeting notes, you look at any pending assessments, that's part of the wealth piece of this decision. And don't skip it because otherwise it'll bite you later on. Now, here's truth number 5. The equity in your home, that is real. It just won't stretch as far as you think. It rarely does. So you or your parents have likely built real equity in that home. And for a lot of folks, this is one of the most significant wealth assets that you have. So this is a wealth decision, not just a real estate decision. Part of what the money that's tied up in this home is actually, you can look at it as a bank account. And the math that's here, this matters. So let's say you net $300,000 on the sale after everything. And that sounds like a lot going into the next purchase, but if you're buying into a market where a smaller home is still $350,000 or $400,000, well, you might even be taking on a mortgage rate if you don't have that in the bank already. The price and the piece that gets missed. What doesn't go into this next house, that can actually go into retirement accounts, income producing assets, or towards helping the next generation. Folks are giving money left and right whenever I'm giving consultations, whenever I'm showing people here in Colorado Springs. Look, they're getting the gifts from their parents because people still want a home. And so this is a real consideration if that fits your mindset and what you want to do. The equity unlock when you're selling this house, it is a wealth event. It deserves a conversation with a certified financial planner, not just the real estate agent. Make sure you talk with that CFP or that CPA, certified public accountant. Okay, truth number 6. Nobody's going to warn you about the isolation. If you or your parents are moving to a new area, which is common for people who want to be closer to kids or in better weather, they are leaving a network. Their doctor, the pharmacy, their friends, their church. And building that back up takes longer than people expect. And I'm not saying you can't do it, because you absolutely can. And while being closer to family is one of the most powerful reasons to make this move, you still have that quality of life aspect that you're looking for. But you need to build in an honest runway for the adjustment period. The first 6 months in a new community, that can feel lonely in a way that catches people off guard. And knowing that in advance, that makes a real difference. The thing that Kristen and I did whenever we were moving around in the military, we would always go find our gym, find our church. And once we found those two things, those connections immediately started happening. And that was on top of the folks that we had there in our, base community, if you will. But plugging in was the key to success. If you don't plug in, you're setting yourself up for failure. All right, truth number 7. Your kids do not want your stuff. And I know that hits hard. And I'm going to be honest with you the same way that I'd be honest sitting across from my parents. I've told my mom this multiple times. Most of the stuff in the house, nobody actually wants it. It's just the reality. Some of the things make sense, but most of it doesn't. The furniture that was perfect for a 4-bedroom house doesn't fit into a 2-bedroom condo. I get it. But that china set, that bedroom furniture, those are extra pieces. They don't find takers the way the families expect. And that's okay. But the families who handle this well are the ones that are ahead of it early. The estate sale companies, some careful conversations with kids, some with grandkids. The families who handle it poorly are the ones who assume that family is just going to take it. And then they find out 3 weekends before the move that nobody can or nobody wants to. Get ahead of this one. It's not a crisis. It just needs a plan. All right, here's truth number 8. It's a life decision first, wealth decision second, wealth optimization, and then real estate third. And what do I mean by this? This is the truth that connects all the others. And if you get this right, you're going to look back and say this was the best decision that you ever made. You followed the sequence. You had your reasons. You figured out your life first. What do you want out of the next 20 years? What does that quality of life look like? Where do you want to be? Who do you want to be close to? Then you figured out the wealth implications. What does selling do to our financial pictures? What opportunities do we create? What tax event might we be creating? What are the carrying costs of where we're going? And then, and only then, once you figure that out, do you get into the real estate? Which home fits the life that you've already decided that you want? The families, again, who get this right, they're the ones that when you look at it backwards, when you look in your rearview mirror, you're like, thank goodness I did it that way. And that's the version where people are happy in. And if you do it the other way, that's the version of regret. Now, as kids, watching our parents go through this, or maybe you're the parent doing this, you've left a legacy. You've left assets. You have if you have money, you have options. These are real life transitions, and they're decisions that are worth doing carefully. What you need is someone to help you see the entire picture, not just this transaction. And that's the difference between a real estate decision and a life decision, and it's worth getting that right. Friends, this is what I do every single day. I help people make sound decisions, come to their own conclusions of what will work best for their situation. Check the link. It's in the caption below. You get clear on the next steps. That initial call doesn't cost anything at all. And if all you need is a connection to somebody that has values aligned in your area, that costs $0 for me. I'm love to spend the time with you just to set you up for success, or at least be a perspective for you to consider. I'm Weldon Hobbs, and when we are making big decisions, we start with your life goal, we optimize it for wealth, and then we focus on the real estate. Remember, good decisions, they start with good information, and I'll see you in the next one.